Okay, the cars are bringing all this personnel. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, that's nice. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. And I'm your boy, Carl Long, coming to you from the 214 in the Dallas, Texas, with my episode 38. This is episode number 38. I'm so excited about this podcast because I have my very special guest, my very first special guest, and I'm excited. Yes, so excited about having a special guest. So today, I got my sister, my friend in Christ, my baby sister, my yo-yo. She is here with me to talk about black hair. And that we have an interesting podcast for you today. So I'm excited about it. And I'm going to introduce you to her here in a minute. But I wanted to talk a little bit about why do you think that I would want to do a bald guy like myself? Why am I interested in hair? Well, because, hair is our culture. It is who we are, and so much is put into our hair, and so many people want to be just like us. It's crazy. And you know what? And I think that we as a culture have put out there the way that the world wants to be. I mean, people copy us for everything, and our hair is just another one of them. And if you ever talk to a black woman about their hair, you'll know exactly what they feel about it. So also, my parents, my dad was a barber. He was a little neighborhood barber. My mother actually had her license, and she used to do hair in the front of the house. And now my sister, she's a hairdresser. She retired. So hair has always been a part of my family and my upbringing. I remember when it was time to get a haircut, my dad would call us around, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't get a hair. We have afros. He wants to give me a chili bowl, that kind of thing. So hair has been a big part of my life. I mean, through the afros, through the braids, the jerry curls, what else? We have fades. All that has happened with men as well as women. It is something that we have always had to deal with. And even the neighborhood kids would come to our house, and mother would be doing the Shirley Temple curls in the kitchen with the thing on there. So hair is a big part of a black person's life, and you're going to understand a lot more when you speak to my special guest here. So what I want to do now is I want you to listen to a little bit about my special guest. Her name is Yolanda, and we're going to listen to what she is all about. I'm so excited that she's here today. I'm so proud of everything that she's doing with her business. She and I have collaborated on a few things in the past, and I just love her. I love her family, the whole thing. She's just my sister, so I'm excited to have her here. So let's listen to a little bit about my girl, my sister Yolanda, and then we're going to come back and you're going to meet her for the very first time. So let's talk with Carl E. Long. Here we go.
Yolanda R. Cooper, a native Texan born in Oklahoma City. Yolanda R. Cooper was raised by her grandmother and in a circle of strong mentors. She is a proud alumna of the Paris Independent School District and Paris Junior College. Her love for dance began at the age of 4, and she went on to shine as a member of the Paris High Blaisettes and the cheerleading squad. In 2003, Yolanda earned her BA in Business Management from LeTourneau University and joined the Tribe of Judah at Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas, where she danced for the glory of God. It was during this season that her spiritual journey deepened, and she embraced her calling as an intercessor. That same year, she founded Woman's Worth Enterprise, Inc., a nonprofit dedicated to supporting women who have experienced abuse and empowering those facing life-altering challenges such as domestic violence, juvenile incarceration, and homelessness. The program was honored by the Texas Youth Commission as the best community-based program in the state of Texas, recognizing its transformational impact and outreach. In 2004, Yolanda married her high school sweetheart, Keith Ray Cooper. In 2015, they welcomed their miracle child, Keith Ray Cooper Jr. In 2010, Yolanda was personally mentored and trained by 2 celebrity hairstylists, further solidifying her expertise in the beauty industry. She has styled local celebrities in the Dallas area and is a licensed cosmetologist and licensed cosmetology instructor specializing in textured hair. With over 10 years of professional experience, she founded her first natural hair product in 2017, Rooted in Love, a scalp care collection focused on wellness and restoration. To date, she has served over 200 clients across Texas, California, and Oklahoma. Yolanda launched Rooted in Love in collaboration with H&M, modeling modern fashion looks that align seamlessly with her natural hair wellness brand. The campaign celebrated today's natural hair enthusiasts and their evolving style. Her first video introducing the product and collection received over 20,000 views, capturing the attention of a growing audience inspired by her message. She is proud to be recognized as an up-and-coming beauty and wellness brand ambassador who believes in knocking on the doors of communities and using social media to spread the message, "Love thy hair." Her mission is to empower others to embrace natural beauty while creating a movement rooted in love, faith, and self-worth. Today, Yolanda is the owner of Everlasting Vessel of Love, EVOL, a natural hair beauty and wellness company based in Dallas, Texas, built on the values of love, loyalty, and legacy. Her current plans include expanding her product line, educating future stylists, and continuing to uplift women through beauty, entrepreneurship, and faith. Plant a seed of faith and discover the treasures within you. One love, one spirit.
All right, listen. This is my girl. My girl Yolanda is right here. I'm so excited for you to meet her. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Let's Talk with Carl E. Long as we welcome my friend, Miss Yolanda Cooper. Hey, Yolanda.
Hey, Carl, how you doing?
I'm so glad you're here. I am so glad you're here. You and I had talked about doing this, I know, many times, and I know we had some issues getting together because life happens, right? And stuff just goes on, but I have been really watching your career and watching what you've been doing, watching your Facebook page and just seeing how you grow. So how do you feel about how things have been going so far? You like it? How's it going for you?
Yes, I'm really excited about the momentum. It hasn't really taken off as fast as I initially thought, but I'm very grateful. I'm in a place of gratitude right now of how it's taken off because I'm learning as I go and I'm just building those leadership skills. So once I get in that place of being able to run a machine, is what I call it, I can go back and plant those seeds and teach people what I learned. Because it's like a twofold. I use my creativity and then, I'm learning as a businesswoman other things too and not to do starting out. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Okay, I'm so happy for you. So let's just talk about like you as a hairdresser. Tell me what are your earliest memories of hair? What were you taught? What were you taught as little yo-yo growing up? What were you taught about hair?
Well, really, to be honest with you, that's what I didn't get. I didn't really get an education on my hair. It was just like you do what you're told. Once a month I would go down to, to my great aunt's house and she would use her pressing comb in her kitchen. And
Pressing comb.
I would sit there and hold my ears and sometimes I get burned and sometimes I would, it was just like trial and error, but it was something about hair. I was always around people who was, professionally, in that industry. So I think seeds were being planted into me because I've always kind of been, that little girl played her dolls, combed her hair and stuff like that. So
I have a question.
Okay.
Is there any girl that has not been burned by a straightening comb? Is there anybody who has never been? Is anybody that good? They have never been burned by the edges around that ear? Because they used to squirm.
Don't know of anybody that hasn't. I mean, that's a part of their hair story.
Yeah, that's a part of their story. You done got burned.
You didn't got your ear burnt.
Isn't that something? And my mother had one of those good old gas stoves, back in those days. And you get them real hot. Some of them had that little, what do you call that thing? What do y'all call that little?
A
Marcel thing. My mother had one of those because, she had a little career like something or whatever. So yeah, that is such great stuff to talk about. So I think that with hair care, although it's been fun, but there's some painful things about hair. So let's reflect on some of the painful or the funny transformational hair moments that you can remember growing up around hair, because hair is a big deal in the black community. Whether you know it or not, people, all my white brothers and sisters, if y'all happen to listen, then you're going to learn some things about black hair on today. So tell me something painful or funny things that you've done, with hair that you can remember.
Well, I tell you what, me personally, I've had my own hair struggles, and one story that it was a traumatic story that I remember about myself. I had just moved to Dallas back in the early 90s, and I was really not, so to speak, confident in what to do as far as putting a relax on my hair. So I was just looking for somebody to put a good relax on my hair because that's what I was educated to know. If your hair gets kinky, go get your relaxer.
Yeah.
So I was working in corporate America at the time, and I met this older lady. She said that she used to do hair. So, and I love the way her hair looked. And she was working out her home, and I was wearing braids. Took my braids down, went to her house one day, and my hair wasn't completely detangled, but I'm thinking, she kind of know what to do as far as that goes, and she put a relax on my hair without combing through my hair.
Oh no.
When I went to her kitchen sink, I could just see my hair falling down in the sink. And I promise you, Carl, my hair has not been the same.
Okay, so why the comb through? Why does that's important to just who would put a relaxing hair when it's all not even I don't understand that.
Well, because I think the myth of that is if you put the chemical on it, it's going to automatically straighten it, but it just made knots. It just knotted it up,
I never thought about that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so that was one thing that it traumatized me.
Yeah.
Literally, it traumatized. And I think that marked where I am right now, because I just can still feel that emotion and how that hurt my heart.
Right.
All of my beautiful thick hair, was gone down the drain.
Right.
So in the 90s, like again, I didn't have a lot of education on what to do and how to, take care of the hair and that kind of thing. So it was a lot of trial and error. And I had to literally go natural, like let the relaxers go twice. One of my really good friends, I ended up meeting her on down the road, and she really helped me with the chemicals and putting relaxers on my hair, and she helped grow my hair and stuff. And I've had other
Yeah.
from Paris. I had a really good hairdresser there that helped, help my hair. But when I came to Dallas, when I first came, I had that experience, and it just marked something that I would never forget. But
So tell me, are relaxers a bad word now? Do we use them at all now? I mean, I know some people still do, but I mean, perms, I know girls have just left that. They don't do that much, but relaxers, are they a bad word now, or they just need to be done responsibly? What is that with relaxers now? With
Well, I'm a natural hair care stylist. So the way that I viewpoint using chemicals may not be the same as other hairstylists.
Gotcha.
So I kind of stay in my lane. Me personally, I don't recommend people getting chemicals for various reasons, but there are stylists that still promote and they are very good at what they do,
Yeah.
with the chemicals. But me personally, I don't promote.
So you have just left that alone.
I just decided when I graduated from cosmetology school, I wouldn't put a relaxer on
Yeah.
client hair because I knew what it did for me, and I know that long term it's a lot that goes into the backlash of it. So
Yeah. So my feed, you know how your algorithm is on your feed, whatever you watch is what you get. So I love watching the black hair, the ladies doing the hair and transformational. I love it. So I get a lot of hair in my feed. So I see what y'all are doing all the time. That's why I was excited to see this because now I can ask all the questions that I wanted to ask about relaxers. And do you know the lady? Her name is Razor Chick. I know you've probably seen her there. She does people that have gotten really bad alopecia, and she uses relaxers, and she ends up doing more like you know how the girls have the what do you call that? They have the little I don't know what you call that.
pixie cut.
Yeah, the little pixie cuts. And she still uses relaxer, I think, a lot. And some people kind of I get in her comments and some people, some of the other hairdressers coming at her, why are you still doing this? Why are you still, but is that a bad thing if you're a hairstylist that still promotes relaxed? Yeah.
I just adding more damage to the scalp, and
Yeah.
basically you're just killing the follicles, whatever's left. So it's kind of like it's a dead end at that point, and it's just
She has a huge following, but she's done some great transformational things. You should check her out, Razor Chick. And Razor Chick, if you happen to listen, I ain't bashing you, ain't doing none of that stuff right there, but we're just saying I've been in your comments, and you probably have too. So you know what people are saying out there. But I mean, I see some of the ladies, they're crying and she's changing but I don't know. So that's I just like, they still doing relaxers though. She may be doing something else, but look like a relaxer to me. Because I can tell what a relaxer look like when they coming through the little.
yeah, you're right.
That's probably relaxer.
So sure, that's a lot of the transformation process is putting a relaxer on there to get the hair to work the way that you're trying to get it to work, and that's the creativity by someone like that. They're very creative, and sometimes people don't really worry about the wellness of it. They just kind of worry about, well, hey, the style, you're gonna look good, you're gonna feel good, and I'm all about that, but I want it to be a sustainable thing. We have to go through the pain, change, and evolving into, loving thy hair again. That's why I am really committed to creating this movement for women who really want to get to the root cause of the hair loss and the pain and why the hair is, because sometimes it's from just the misuse of the hair.
Right.
Just over the years, just putting the relaxer on or braiding the hair too tight and not, properly conditioning the hair. It's just so many different facets that go into it. But when you have somebody like myself that really care, I really try to listen to the person and try to find out what is it that you really want out of this crown that you are wearing.
Yeah. I hear the word like protective style. To me, braids don't protect nothing, but I hear that's a protective style of people I see people that have full heads of hair that are putting braids in the hair, but aren't braids really? I guess there's a good way to do them and there's a bad way to do them, but over and all, they do damage the hair in most cases. Is that a true statement, or is that me just not understanding how braids really work in a female's or male's hair?
Well, it goes like this. Everything is done in moderation. So if you have a person just constantly wearing braids and never, take care of their natural hair and their scalp, because I'm about a scalp care, that's my thing. Take care of your scalp. That's the root of it. I've seen where people have worn braids and they have a regimen, a routine where they take care of their scalp and condition their hair, and their hair thrive in braids. But I recommend doing things with a balance.
Yeah.
Don't too much of anything is really not good.
Makes sense. That's true.
If you're wearing protective styles, but if you're wearing crochets, for a whole year and you don't take care of your hair, you don't get it conditioned and trimmed and that kind of thing, then it can cause your hair to do the adverse effect.
Yeah.
So, but then it also depends on your age, what kind of, if you have conditionings like health conditions or scalp conditions, some people have, dry scalp because of the synthetic hair. Now we are really trying to get educated on using human hair for these protective styles, because that would really make a big difference.
Okay, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So most of this hair is synthetic that I'm seeing. It looks really good, but that human hair looks good too, I can tell. And I'm someone, I don't know why I know how to do this, but I can clock when somebody has them. Some people can't even clock. I can clock a weave. I know. Not as a bad thing, but I was like, oh, she did that really good, because even though I know most people are not going to know it, but I can tell just a little bit, but I can tell that hairstylist did a damn good job, excuse my French on that. So they've done a great job with that hair care. And I am seeing black women who are growing hair, and they ain't got the little water wave, good hair as we call it. They got regular hair, and they got hair growing down to their backs because stylists like yourself are teaching them how to take care of their hair. Something that we never knew to do with our hair, and it's just amazing. And I love seeing the ladies learn about their hair. I'm going, this girl done grew her hair all the way down to here from there. It is great. It is just great of what's going on. So I'm excited that you are in the forefront of leading that kind of thing. So real quick, so what led you to creating Evolve, and you're rooted in Love Hair Care Collection. Tell me what made you do that? You said a little bit about it, but talk about that a little bit of what led you to doing that.
I just wanted to be a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
And I these queens sit in my chair on a daily basis, and I'm listening to their hair stories and their traumas and stuff like that. And I just wanted to, take some time to kind of get out of the rat race of all of these different products, because a lot of times you go in the store. I've done years of research and trying different products, and I'm kind of like a snooty person when it comes to using products. I want the best of the best.
Oh, well, good. Is it all about the product? Is it all about the product, really?
That has a lot to do.
Okay.
Yeah. And the consistency of how people use the products and creating a regimen for their texture hair and their, what type of hair they have and, their lifestyle and that kind of thing. But yeah, a really good shampoo and conditioner and, a deep conditioner. Like, we have to get back into that practice,
Yeah.
the time to care for the hair. You know what I mean? And so I just started listening more. And I'm like, this is a problem that needs to be addressed. Like on a serious note, like, to the fact that it's still not a lot of education.
Yeah.
No, it's a lot of women who've educated themselves, but they're still, as far as like what's in products and stuff like that, I just wasn't seeing, a lot of clean.
So you're talking about some stylists are still not educating themselves too, as well, right?
Yeah,
They're not.
because you have a lot of companies that market. We are one of the biggest consumers when it comes to hair products. But yeah, we just have to take the time. I don't think a lot of people take the time. I think they just go with whoever's got the most money to market and what it look like, and stuff. The big dogs out there with the products, and just kind of like. But what about the ones who have real hair issues?
Right, right.
You know.
That makes a lot of sense on that. So let's see. When did you personally start to embrace your own natural hair? How long has it been for you? Has it been everything is pretty recent for natural hair? So when did you start to embrace your own natural hair? Do or using it like you're saying you want your clients to? You had to do it first yourself before you can tell somebody else to do it. So what was that journey like for you?
I've had many journeys.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be very transparent. I started my first natural hair journey back in the 90s, late 90s, I think 99, and I went natural twice.
Okay.
I went back to the relaxer because I didn't have the education, didn't know how to manage all this, kinky hair, the hair you couldn't comb through, it wasn't soft, you couldn't work through it, it wasn't pliable, combable. I mean, it just was very hard to manage. So I went back. But then after I got married back in '04, I started having some concerns about just the chemicals being in my body.
Gotcha.
And so that's when I went a second time. And this time, I mean, literally, Carl, I would try everything. I was just trying everything. And it just wasn't anything working for me. So I ended up going to Veda Institute, and that was in 2010. So all these years, I'm just
So the additional training that you got.
additional training.
Okay.
But their product is amazing.
Okay.
I mean, they have an amazing product, and they taught me how to what you call cocktail. So I learned how to take one type of conditioner and use it on a client with another type of shampoo, depending on what they needed, and that's really how I got in the lab. I just started just.
Oh, so you went to the lab and started mixing your own. So you actually
I
learned.
would just mix stuff together, just playing around with stuff, and I think that's where I got the interest to start creating. But yeah, it's just
The own hair crack. I stole that from Gina from beauty. What's she called? Hair crack.
yeah, it's just been over the years. I've just just started just trying stuff.
Yeah.
If that didn't work, I go to something else, and you get frustrated because it's so many different things out there. But I just was looking for quality. I was looking for quality effectiveness.
Yeah.
I just wasn't getting it. And so I started really studying holistically, like herbs, what it does for the hair and the scalp and the different butters. I kind of just really started breaking everything down to the different parts that's in, these products and what does what.
Do you look at other other inventors' stuff? Like Tracy Ellis Ross has the pattern line. Have you ever tried her stuff? Is that good? And I know who else? Kenya Moore has some stuff that grows hair, but how do they you compare to make yours, or you just kind of say, "Oh, that's what they're doing"? Do you use that as an avenue to learn more on some of the what's out there?
Well, I'm a little nosy. I always look and see what they have, what kind of ingredients they have.
Okay.
Kind of,
Oh, so you reading labels and stuff.
read labels.
Man, that's something that is so
I
amazing.
read labels. I write them down. I read them, and but what I do is I look for the potentness, like
Yeah.
organic, the most natural, thing that's in the ingredients of a formula, and I kind of just started self educating myself.
Mhm.
I don't really get too far into what other people are doing.
Yeah.
I have my own downloads of creativity,
Gotcha.
and so I'm be honest with you, after I watched Madam CJ Walker's
Mhm.
movie,
The movie. Yeah,
it was just something just hit me.
that was a good movie. Yeah.
You can do this.
You can do it.
Create your
You
own
can.
formula.
So tell me this from a government FDA kind of not FDA whatever manages that kind of stuff. Y'all is probably the Texas board or whatever y'all have. I don't know who manages product like that. What kind of things are required? Are there things that are non-natural that's required to go into your mixture if you go to the shelves? Are there any kind of guidelines that you have to follow as a product creator?
Well, I'm still doing research on that.
Okay.
And you want to go into like the shelves of different retailers and stuff like that. Some of them require you to have certain things in the product as far as like the preservatives and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So to create a product, you have to have some type of preservative.
Okay.
They have natural preservatives. They have some have more chemicals in it. It just all depends. I'm more of a non-harsh chemical.
Okay.
So my preservatives are very gentle. But I know that if I ever decide to go into somewhere like a Target or Whole Foods or somewhere like that, they may require other things to stay on the shelf.
Right.
So, when I started my process of writing down my ingredients and coming up with, the ideal, I collaborated with a natural, holistic,
Okay.
chemist.
Holistic chemist. That's good.
Yeah.
I saw something on maybe look at documentaries and history thing. They were talking about castor oil. How look historically like Cleopatra and ladies back they used to use castor oil, which is from a plant. I didn't realize what plant it's from. I don't know. They used to give it to me. We hated that mess. Yeah, I know you had some of that, but it used to be something they used in their hair back in the day. I don't know. Is that something that people look into? I mean, you look into every kind of natural herb or whatever to create the product, right? So to speak.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
castor oil is one. Black Jamaican castor oil is a big one that's in my scalp serum.
Okay.
I mean, it's so many different jojoba oil. I mean, it's so many different olive oil, avocado oil. Those things
This is amazing. I love this.
have all type of hair health benefit,
Okay.
scalp benefits. It's just how you want to put your formula together, what you're trying to get out of the formula.
Okay.
And my thing was I wanted to help heal the scalp, the follicle. I wanted to go to the root of, why come that hair can't come through.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to find out. And so that's where my thought process when I was coming up with my scalp care is
Right.
I want to get to the root of that scalp.
Okay, so tell me, what are you looking for as far as when you're testing the product as to what is the outcome that you're looking for? You want to look for to make hair look healthy. What are you looking for? Moisture to stay in or laying down or I mean, what do you look for to know that it's a good product and it's working?
Well, I mean, I use the term pH balance.
pH. Okay.
That is something that a lot of people may and may not know, but you can test the shaft, cuticle of the hair by dropping it in water, and that'll kind of tell you the porosity of the hair is too dry still. If it's too, the porosity is low, high. That's one way to test the hair. But really, to be honest with you, I think the stimulation of applying the right oils to your scalp, massaging the scalp, the stimulation, getting the blood flow. you begin to see over time because you have to give it time, our hair for some reason grows a little slower, I think, in a lot of women. So once you get a regimen on your scalp oil and start seeing the little fuzzies come through and keeping that scalp stimulated, you begin to see, okay, well, this oil is working, for this person's scalp. And everybody's different,
Right.
I can go so deep and far into the point where like detoxifying the scalp,
Yeah.
using herbs and oils and stuff like that just to detoxify the scalp. All of those things are, very pertinent and
Right.
educational for women who are really trying to
Yeah.
love our hair again.
I'm a firm believer that the way God created this earth, your skin, your pigment, your hair, the where you were born and how your hair is basically to help you with whatever climate that you live in or something like that. And because we're not pure, some of us got so much European, and so our hair is just like, all over the place. So trying to find out what really works with our hair I consider it to be a treasure hunt to figure it out. But I think y'all have done it. I really do, because I'm looking at things that are happening. I'm so excited for you. I'm so proud because you're talking like a chemist over here. And this is really exciting me even more about hair care. Yes, bald people care about hair. If I had some hair now,
You have to take
I would take care of my hair.
What different? You may not have any open follicles anymore. You still want your scalp to be healthy.
Right.
You don't want to go outside and get burnt. You make sure you have a good moisturizer.
Another myth that we always didn't do. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to make sure that you protect your scalp at all times.
Okay. Cool. This is really good. All right. So, this is one of your own questions that you wanted to ask and talk about. It's like, what are some of the challenges with accepting natural hair? What are some of the challenges, Yolanda, that people have with accepting their natural born hair and just wearing it?
It's so many different angles to this. I think the self-imagery of, how I look in the mirror when I see my hair, if it's not the length that I wanted, or if it's not the density, if it's not thick enough, it's not, the color tone, what it looks like when I go into an interview, that's one of the big things that stick out for me is that I've had over the years, a lot of women would love their, textured hair, but the confidence of going into an interview the first time, they just don't feel like they would get the job. Yeah. Because of, the disparity of, just.
Yeah. But you know what's so funny though? When we were in the Afro in the 70s, those were acceptable we could wear afros, girls, and things like that. That wasn't a big deal because I think they thought we were just cool. But then after a while, that kind of changed. When we started adding more Afrocentric braids and stuff, they said, you went a little bit too far. It's got to be safe for the dear old white men. I'm not going against no white men, I'm saying, but you had to. And we all knew this, right? You couldn't have an afro, but if yours was all big and falling over,
it's a distraction for
right.
some people, and it was always like, it's always one of those things where we in a room, with other diverse groups, it's always like our hair is the attention, and over the years, I think has affected women's self-esteem.
Yeah.
So, we have always been kind of easily persuaded by, the extensions, the different hair enhancements, not really putting a focus on our beautiful natural textured hair, our curly hair, our afros, I just think that we have to do better, if we know better, we do better. And so I'm a stickler on that,
Yeah.
It does affect our self-esteem, what you have on, what the other person's, it's the peer pressures of just being comfortable in your own hair.
Yeah. Do you remember, for those of you locally, we used to have a newscaster. Her name was Iola Johnson. Do you remember Iola Johnson on Channel 8? When she first, you were probably too young to remember this far back, but when she first came on the scene, she had an afro that was like huge, beautiful afro, but she used to cover up the words on the side. And they made her cut her hair, and she had to change her style, and she went to this more, European style of hair. She had really beautiful hair to begin with, and she had to change her hair. But when she came on the scene, Iola was wearing the biggest afro in the world. I wish I had got a picture and showed you exactly what happened to it. But I mean, that was her professional career. She is the first black anchor in a major metropolitan area, and they're telling her. And Oprah went through the same thing with her hair. So it affects us, guys, and y'all don't understand what it does to us as a people when you mess with our hair. It's our hair that came with us. It's traumatizing. It really is. So so, what has being a hairstylist taught you? Real world, real scalp, common mistakes that people make. What has that helped you? Real world examples. What has that taught you about? When that person sits in your chair and they're like, Yolanda, help me, and you're sitting there, you kind of become like a bartender to your clients. You have to help them through. I'm sure it's like that. From what I can see, the client and the hairdresser, that's a very close relationship. It's very personal. So just talk about that. And when someone sits in your chair for the first time, what do you do to make them feel like you're going to take care of them?
I just basically open my heart up and, try to listen to, their story. A lot of times they come in, don't know what to do. They're at the point where I don't have an idea what to do with my hair. It's just this hair is too much. And it's almost to the point where I have to bring them back in, like, okay, this is your crown. You gotta build a relationship. I want to build a relationship with you and your hair. And that's kind of where I start. And I treat it, like you said, like a bartender. I create a customary, you know, uh system for them. I don't do everybody's hair the same. You know what I mean? Like, even with my shampoos and conditioners, it depends on what kind of situation that client may have at that particular time of what I'm gonna do. You know, I have treatments, different treatments and stuff that I use, different, types of conditioners, scalp. I mean, I may come in, I may just start massaging your scalp. It just all depends on what's going on with that person emotionally and what's going on with the hair, because how you feel on the inside, it reflects through your skin, your hair, and your nails. It really
I
does.
didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And that explains a lot because girls are that's so important about their hair. And I mean, and again, my white brothers and sisters, y'all don't know how important this is to our women when it comes to their hair. They want to look good. And we know black women are the leader in a lot of things in this country. And it's just something they want to look good and they want to feel good about themselves. I mean, that's true for all women, I'm sure, when it comes to, being, but when it comes to black women, it's just a different story.
Our hair is a different story.
Yeah.
I mean, when I tell you, I don't understand how, and I'm so grateful that I have the talent to be multifaceted with styling and stuff, because no hair is created equal.
Do you do white hair or Asian hair or
I have
Mexican hair?
before, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, everybody's hair is different. You have the different curl types, and the texture hair. But even with that, it's even still I'm learning that it's different of how you treat, the different curl types within, just say 4C. That's a very common one. I'm sure you've heard of 4C type. Even with the 4C, you may have
Where does that term come from and where was it? Why is it just a recent term because of the science of it all and the testing of it all? Where did that come from? I've never heard that term before in my early years. You know what I mean?
Well, it was just the individual. I'm not, you know, quite sure who came up with that
That whole
thought,
system of all the, yeah.
but it was just to simplify like the different textures of curl pattern.
Okay.
So people can understand like why their curl is curling up, like a corkscrew, or why is it curling up like a wave, like, and then what do I put on this hair for this? It was just more of an educational component so people can know what shampoos you use, what conditioners you use, what oils to use based on your curl pattern. And then they grade it like, the twos, the threes, the four types. So, I mean, it was something that was supposed to be simplified to educate. It was an educational chart, for hairstylists and for the people, so they'll know, they understand. Okay, because I have a lot of people who are like, okay, do I have 4C hair? Do I have 4B hair? And I said, well, you have a couple of different types of hair textures, And then, well, how does that happen? And I would kind of explain it to them. So they have a lot of questions, and I'm so happy that I took the time to study to further my study and understand because they have some good questions.
Oh, that's good. So Yolanda, I have to ask the question: is there such a thing as good and bad hair? There's not. I think I believe that now. I believe that we have all had good hair, just how you take care of it. Even though you won't have the little water wave hair mixed like that looks good, but they have trouble with their hair too. I mean, especially biracial. I see some of the challenges they have with their hair. It gets really curly, and it's hard to take care of. So, y'all heard it here. There is no such thing as bad. I mean, is nappy? Is that a term that goes with anybody's head? I know it was a derogatory term. It wasn't probably created by us. It was probably created by somebody else. But
No, I don't use that term.
you don't use that
nappy.
term.
I mean, to identify, more of a coarse, curly hair, you sometimes may have a kinky curly or jerry curl, something like that. The more of the tighter the curl, corally,
Yeah.
corkscrew, those are the tighter curl patterns. But no, I don't use that term nappy.
I love that. I love
Yeah, I
that.
think
This
that's
is
disrespectful to
so
our culture.
this is so good to learn. People are gonna love this. So I want you to talk about an emotional moment you've had with a client and how you help them. Give me, you don't have to give a name. Tell me your most one client that stays at the top of your head that's like, this has made me feel good because I know you're spiritual and I know that outside of how you don't put that down, you probably went to praying because I know you. But tell me about one of those sessions and how that came out.
So I had a referral, another client, she was in her 70s and she said, I have a church member that I'm going to send you. She's had some a hair she's in a hair crisis. And she was just, sharing her concern about what kind of crisis she was in. I was like, okay, just send it to. And I didn't think it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be easy because I mean, when I look at hair, I'm like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, bam, bam, bam. So she came in and she sat down, and it looked like she was 100% gray, but then also it looked like that she had got a complete bleach job, like her whole hair was bleached. And Carl, when I tell you, she had plugs in her hair, literally plugs where her hair was just coming out by the hand. And you could tell she was real weak and real, very vulnerable. And she was just, not in a good emotional space. And then she started showing me pictures of what her hair used to look like. And I, just listened to her story, like, how did you get here? What happened? And she started telling me the experience she had where she had went to her hairstylist of 20 years, I guess, or so. And she was 100% gray, but she bleached her hair and then her hair just fell out and it wouldn't stop falling. And she started getting treatments and stuff, but it just wouldn't come back. So I gave her a reality check. I said, well, are you ready for a new journey? I said, do you want to give your hair a second chance? And she was like, yes, I'm just willing to do whatever you recommend. So I told her, I said, we got to do the big chop. Yeah, to start over again. And while I'm doing, I'm praying because I want her to be strengthened. I want to give her hope because she wasn't used to wearing her hair that short. And I said, I know that you don't want your grays. So then I just put a nice toner on there that would make it have that blonding effect. And I gave her a nice shape for what I could do as far as, without taking her all the way bald. And so when she left out, I gave her a prescription of what to do. I told her, take some of my scalp oil, use it 2 to 3 times a week. See me every 2 weeks. I'm going to give you a deep conditioner, put you under the red light, and do all my other little treatments. And we're going to see an evolution happen within a year.
You're on the evolves.
I
Yeah.
have pictures to show it. She came in, and now her hair is on her, touching her shoulder.
Oh, I love that.
And that's within 1 year.
I love that. And you know what? I remember a good friend of mine, when I used to live in St. Louis, he was going to barber school. And I used to help him study. And they called y'all barber surgeons in the book. I remember that study when it was just the book, y'all's book. Back in the old days, that was the name that they had, barber surgeon, because hair care was an important thing because there was things that were happening to the hair. Back in those days, there were lice, all kinds of stuff. So hair care people were in. And I'm reading these things like, I'm supposed to be studying. I know, but there's all this history about this stuff that I didn't know. But if you ever have a chance, I'll see if I can find some documents on that because I remember that from helping him study barber surgeon. But you were just that. You had to sit and consult her as if you were a doctor.
Bring her hair back to life.
Yeah.
But I started from the root.
Yeah.
I focused on her scalp. Because
Okay.
I looked at her scalp, and if I was in a situation where I could not handle the situation, I am wise enough to say, hey, look, you need to go to a dermatologist, have them to do a scalp analysis to go a little further, then come back, and I'm going to work hand in hand with that dermatologist. I have clients like that as well, too.
Oh, okay.
Where sometimes it's a little bit more than what I can, operate.
You can operate. Yeah.
So I'm very transparent with my.
Have you ever had a client where you said, I don't know what I can't do this. There's nothing I can do for you here. Have you ever had to turn somebody away and not? No? You've always been able to?
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm a creative person. I think on my feet. If it's something that, I kind of get a feel of their style, because you got to look at how a person style themselves, as fashion and stuff like that, their image or how they see themselves. And so it's a plethora of styles out there. And that even if they would have had to go into like a wig or something, we can work it out.
Okay.
I can find a solution.
That's good.
I'm determined to help you. Yeah.
Wow. Scalp care is self-care.
Yes.
Talk about what that means in the Rooted in Love philosophy. Scalp care is self-care. What does that mean?
Scalp care is self-care. When I tell you, when you realize the importance of scalp care, and then once you go through that process of really focusing on the regimens of how important, just like you do your skincare.
Because the skin is an organism, including your head.
Egg is the biggest organ, on our body. And it's like when you understand the importance of scalp care, it makes you feel empowered. It makes you want to make sure you use your scalp oil 2 to 3 times a week. You know what I mean? Just like you do your exfoliations and your cleansings at night, your rituals. What's here have your scalp ritual.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to Root It in Love to be like a ritual for people.
Okay.
Like keep that right there when you go in the bathroom and you wash your face and you do all your nighttime, routine. Don't leave out your scalp. Don't forget about your scalp.
That's something to know, Yolanda. Nobody ever thinks about that because you just wash your face. You don't really mess with this. You know what I mean? Especially me now, my scalp is all exposed. And you know what? When I shave my head,
But give you a regimen.
Give me a regimen. I need one because I discovered I had a birthmark until I shaved my head. My mother, as soon as I got to shave my head, my mother goes, "Oh, there's your birthmark." I'll say, "I didn't know I had this, mother." It was so funny. She remembered it, and it's right on top of my head.
See how we just miss things?
Yeah.
And so it's like we have to create a regimen, So just like I said, just like the ladies go get their manis and pedis, men too.
Yeah.
You take care of your feet and your hands, take care of your scalp. Make that a part of your regimen, your weekly regimen.
This is going to be good stuff for somebody. This is going to be good stuff. So let's see. What about breaking the generational hair trauma? What are you doing to change the narrative? What are you doing to change the narrative? How do you want to put out? I know this is one vehicle we can use, but what else are you doing to get that word out there of breaking that curse of, hair trauma that we as Black people have experienced over these many years?
Man, just being that voice to, just go out there and just make my voice heard, like, just getting that social media out there and educating people, creating that content, so people can see that through my work, through my hands of, I'm not just saying this stuff really can happen, just putting the hope back in. My dream is, putting my Rooted in Love in different people's hands, or stores and stuff where they can go in and they can experience, because it's an experience. They can experience and get hope again. I mean, I'm not saying I have the answer to all hair issues, but I'm pretty much confident that I will be able to help a lot of people, with this product. And to me, education, getting back to wellness, loving thy hair, getting back to making that connection, with what products and, what works for each and every individual, person and what they're going through. People are just traumatized with the stress of, life. But then you got talking about, I got to worry about how I'm going to get my hair back.
Yeah.
People need to be educated.
Yeah.
And so I hope that I get my voice out where enough people can hear, my story and the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing to help women, because there's a lot of women out there just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They're at a loss.
Wow. I believe that.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's real.
So let's just talk. Let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. Talk about all those harsh products that we grew up with, hot combs, relaxers, and everything like that. Tell the people, yes, we still doing this. No, what shouldn't they be doing? Well, tell them things that they need to just totally get rid of, or not, or how to use it. Dispel some of that for now.
I highly recommend, if you're using a relaxer, don't do a relaxer at home on yourself. Please go to a professional, licensed cosmetologist to get your relaxer done. Make sure you ask questions. Make sure that you have them to examine your scalp, because again, that's where a lot of the problems start. If you already have dry scalp, you don't need to be putting a relaxer on your hair. You don't. It's just gonna make things worse over time. As far as like the hot comb and stuff like that, I use the hot comb. I just know how to use it. I mean,
So heat on her is not a bad thing as long as you take care of it.
No, you have to know how to use heat.
Okay.
We learned that, in school, and then, if the person's hair is, the pH is off, sometimes you might not want to use the heat. You may want to do something like a roller set and blow dry the hair and flat iron it, or something, use less heat. You know what I mean? Like, it's all kinds of ways but the pressing comb, to me, I think it does better as far as, like, if we're going to talk about straightening the hair, it's more organic. The heat, you have to know how to control the heat, just like when they use the Marcel, roll curlers and stuff like that. You got to know, because you don't want to burn people's hair and stuff, but yeah, it's just amount of time of knowing what to do. Practice, new hairstylists, get you a mannequin and just start practicing these different, methods and stuff.
So what do you say to people that want to do their own hair at home? Is it, if they're studying and learning, is that okay? Or would you recommend that they have a stylist or someone always, don't be a total home hair care person? What do you suggest for that?
You need to, and I'm not just saying because I'm a cosmetologist, hairstylist. No, I'm really being transparent, because we go through the study of learning the theory behind why we do this. Train for this. That's what we're here for. We're here to be your to serve you. And I'm okay with people getting enough education, they go on their own and they just soar, with taking care of their hair. But don't be just experimenting, because you may not see the backlash then, but it may take 10 years later, get in your 30s and your 40s and 50s, and you wonder why. What happened is because it's maybe something you did early on and you didn't know what you were doing, like the relaxers, or having sores after you get the chemical burn and stuff like that. That stuff, if your the scalp is not restored properly, you're going to always have those issues.
Yeah. And I see they come and sit in y'all's chair and you go, what are y'all be going with this? You put a relaxer on there with the y'all know exactly what they did, don't you?
Yeah, I know exactly. I can look at the hair and I'm with it and I can tell exactly what's going on.
Oh my God. And then they want to sit down. So y'all hear that, people? You know what? You need a hairstylist, a licensed cosmetologist. You need them. You need them. It's okay to keep things up and going until the neck between whatever, but you know what? Stop experimenting. You're hearing it right here, okay? And you're going to have some people that's going to be in the comments saying they just want that money. They're going to say stuff. I know that there will be, because there's always somebody out there, and I know they're going to say that, but that's okay. But I understand now. Just like you want to have a professional doctor, you're not going to somebody else. I see the history. They're barber surgeons. They are trained to know all this stuff. They are really trained.
And I don't think I am an ambassador for the hair care industry. I don't think that we get enough credit for how important our hair matters. And so I feel, and that's one of the things, I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to speak out. Black hair care matters. And, for years and years, we have been in situations where our products are left behind. We don't have the best quality products. We kind of was stereotyped that we have to have straight hair. We didn't know that on down the road that what they call creamy crack, or whatever you want to call it, was going to be damaging our scalp. Women, they have had lawsuits of, fibroids and stuff, from just different things that have happened, in the black hair care. Yeah. Um, and I don't think all those things are just out there floating in the air. I think there's some truth to some of those things.
Wow.
And so I am wanting us to take our hair care as a true matter.
Okay.
It matters. The products that we use matter. You know what I mean? Even like you said, you don't have any hair, but you have a beard.
Right.
You want to care for your beard. You want your beard to feel possession and soft,
Right.
rub it, So, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good. So you put a scripture in here. You said faith shaping views on inner beauty, and you said Isaiah 6:13, and I forgot to look that up because I'm one of those got to look stuff up, and I didn't. Do you remember what it's Isaiah 6:13 is all about? Your purpose. 61:13. Yeah, I believe that's it, but I forgot to look it up, and I meant to look it up and have it ready for.
I think it's rise and shine.
Okay.
But I think that's what it is. Yeah, you know, we need to shine. I mean, my whole vision is mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
And hair for me is my ministry. So it's not just me, doing the cosmetology thing. It's more or less taking time to listen to that woman's heart and to allow her to open her crown up and to just explore the options of giving her hope and because our crown is our everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I see beautiful crowns, every day, and I just feel like we got to start rising up to our crowns and start looking in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm beautiful like I am.
Beautiful.
Even if I do have a plug on my head, I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
It's big, it's bigger than some of the disparities of the way our hair look. Even with myself, I still had to, and I'm still growing with that confidence of, when I'm going certain places, how I look with my hair and that kind of thing. It's a process. It's a real deal. That self-imagery thing is real.
I know it's real. It's real. So this is something that I'm always in them comments on a lot of these. And I told you they're all in my feed. But one of the things that I see a lot is there's this little war going on between the new hairstylists and the older ones. The newer hairstylists, I mean the younger ones, they have this like you have to do a deposit, you got to wash your own hair before you get there. And the ones that said, my hairdresser, she washes my hair, and so there's this whole thing. Did you wash your hair? And so the older clients were like, what do you mean that wash your hair? Aren't you going to wash it? They want you to come already. Talk about what's going on there. There's something going on right there with those dynamics on how the newer stylists are handling hair in your old school, if you will, are doing. What's it all about?
Well, I'm not young. I'm not 20. I'm not 30. I'm 53. So I have to be honest. I I understand both worlds of them wanting to make the money, but I just come from a thread where sustainability is in the healthcare, the hair care,
Okay.
the health of the hair.
So they just want to speed things along. They don't want to have to wash hair.
The younger ones are more or less for volume.
Okay.
I'm not trying to build a relationship with you. I mean, you good if you come back, you good if you're not, but hey, I'm gonna have some new people come through here. I'm gonna post my content. I'm gonna make sure that, I get my stuff out there. I don't have to build a relationship with you. I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm just trying to do your hair and let's keep it moving. But me on the other end, I'm about building relationships. I want sustainability. I want to grow with my clients. I want my clients to be a part of my family. So it's just kind of like, there's a difference in the perspective of how we see hair now. But now there are some very, very talented creatives out there when it comes to the younger ones. They're very creative. They're coming up with all these different things, and I learn from them. I'll be a student first forever. I'm an educator, but I learn.
Nobody can learn from anybody.
So I feel like we should come in rooms together and, but they educate each other. But I really think that it's more or less the old school. We don't want nobody touching Me personally, if I'm gonna do a silk press on your hair, I needs to clean your hair.
You want to do it yourself?
I need to have my hands on your hair from the time, or have a shampoo tech that's trained that can go and get in there and clean that scalp and get that hair clean, give you a really good blow dry, so that when you put that heat on the hair to silk it out, it's going to flow, it's going to blow. You know what I mean? Like it's going to shine. And yeah, but I would lose the touch of the process if I had somebody come in with their hair already blow dried and
I
shampoo.
got you. Okay. Well, that explains a lot. You just explained the whole. I'm always in them comments, and they be talking about it a lot. About did you watch? I was like, that's something going on with the younger kids
But
here.
if you got a client that don't know how to shampoo their hair, because I have clients that would not touch their hair, they would come in just to get a shampoo, you know.
Yeah.
But then there's some then they'll if they have to go to a braider and they don't feel comfortable with knowing how to detangle shampoo their hair, they'll come and I'll prep them and they'll go, pay another fee to get their hair braided. It's
Right.
real.
So then my next question, I want to just preface like I'm gonna read something to you that I read that I got out of my favorite chat GBT. It's about the hair care industry as a whole. So listen to this. Black consumers significantly influence the beauty industry through their substantial spending on hair care products. In 2021, black consumers in the United States spent approximately $6.6 billion on beauty products, accounting for 11% of total of 60 billion beauty market. By 2023, this expenditure increased to 9.4 billion, with projections indicating it will reach 10.2 billion in 2024. This is an older article, of course. Specifically focusing on hair care, black consumers in the U.S. spend an estimated $473 million annually on hair care products, representing approximately 14% of the total beauty industry market share. That's the total. 14, that's a lot. Notably, black women spend approximately 6 times more on hair care than other ethnic groups, underscoring the cultural and personal significance of hair care within the black community. Despite, this is the hard part here, this substantial spending, black-owned beauty brands constitute only 2.5% of revenue in the beauty industry, highlighting a significant disparity between the consumer spending and the brand representation. These figures underscore the economic importance of black hair care industry and point to opportunities for greater equity and representation in the beauty market. So that's a good thing to talk about. I wanted to talk about that because you're going out into that spectrum of your own product. Why aren't there more black women that are doing that? I mean, the Koreans and the Asians have taken over this market. Why aren't there more black-owned resupply places and doing their own part? What do you think is the thing that's keeping us here? Are we just now starting to do it? I know there's a lot because of politics and history that's kept us down, but what's happening now? What do you think? Is there a movement?
There's been some movement, but it's still slow. I think that there should be way more
2.5%?
yeah,
Yeah, we're spending all the money and that's all.
access
Yeah.
to, these different products as in a whole. But I think a lot of things come from China, and they just have the plugs, as what I say. As far as like hair, even the weave hair and the braid hair and stuff like that, they just have access. A lot of minority women and men are going to those places and they're building relationships.
And in their own direct relationship with them.
Yeah, and getting us, so it's opening up that way. But just it's like a big secret in a sense, especially if you want to own your own beauty supply. But as far as like myself, who have my own, formulated company, I can go in and I can give my pitch to these suppliers, these beauty supply stores, and try to encourage them. Like, if you put my product in there, it's going to make a difference in your clientele. That's how confident I am, because they're going to come shop here at your store.
I'm glad to see that because I don't try to make some money. This is too much money out there.
So much money. And then I am one of those where I flow in integrity. I'm not going to put anything out of this not that doesn't have stand by my integrity of what's in my product. And I think that we lose out because of not having the capital, the sustainable capital. We have to, be creative, do fundraising, and We have to be creative and just start our grassroots. It's a hustle. It's a hustle muscle. You have to use your hustle muscle to get your name out, get your product out, and then hopefully maybe throughout that process get you a good grant writer. Somebody can go out and find you some minority grants that could help bring capital. But
Get you some investors too.
yeah, it's so many different ways that you could do it, but it's so hard to get out there. You just have to have the tenacity. You have to have the passion and the willpower and the resilience to not give.
That's a good space for some lawyer or some person that does any kind of whatever that does that kind of thing to get into this space and help women of color get into that space, or men who want to own a beauty supply. That's some good money in there. I don't know nothing about the business, but if it was a way that I could figure out how to get some of that there coins, because y'all spend a lot of money on this stuff.
I go weekly.
Yeah.
I mean, not just for my own, just something I'm picking up at the beauty supply store.
Yeah.
They don't only just sell hair products. They sell earrings, plastic bags,
all the stuff.
Hair, just whatever you may need. And I mean, it's amazing how much money I spend.
Well, why not add to your hair care line and start a small little retail portion of it? If you can get you a lifeline to get some of those products in, and you could gradually do that. Next thing you know, you got your products. You got a whole bit. You'll have it before you know it. I don't know. I'm just thinking out of the box. I don't know nothing about being an entrepreneur at all. My mother used to do antiques and stuff. She always wanted, but I didn't get that gene like I should have. But
it's coming out.
It's coming out now.
But what I do plan to do is add an apparel.
Okay.
Like my T-shirts.
Yeah, because you and Keith always did that, so that's a good thing.
Having those branding, effects through apparel.
Send somebody out with the full look from the.
Yeah. So I'm actually, getting ready to do some launching for Juneteenth, where people can purchase with a T-shirt along with oil, and then they're promoting my business.
Okay.
So, so that kind of thing I do want to incorporate. And then as time go, I want to also add a body, hair, hands and feet, products. So, those kind of things, they'll come. But first thing first.
First thing first, yeah. I agree. Walk before you can run.
Right, don't get before the cart, before the horse,
So tell me this. So is social media important right now? Because, I mean, y'all are out there. As I told you earlier, I'm a hair care social media junkie. They all in my feed. Ever since I started watching them on TikTok, they everywhere I go now. But I just sit there look at them.
I do. That's all I do. It's soothing to me to watch. I'm always educating myself, And like I said, giving the young girls credit. I mean, they be on it. They posting that content. They got it down.
It's a different way of doing things now. Think about it. Ladies that used to be models that did all the hard work and had to go through the go-sees and whatever. Now you start out on Instagram. And the older moms, they're not paying their dues. So do y'all feel like these young ones are not paying their dues because they're getting all their business via Instagram? People are traveling from one state to the other because they saw your Instagram video of you doing your locks or whatever. You know what I mean?
No, they're paying their dues. That is work.
That is
creating content and posting consistently.
I can tell you that is work. All y'all that's saying that ain't work and that they're working hard. Yeah.
That takes planning, organization, all of that layout, creativity. That is work.
You're right. You just made me realize it is.
You talking about being behind a chair, working, turning on your camera, making sure you have content. Everything is content.
Yeah.
And I am trying my best because I'm a perfectionist. I want everything to be perfect, and life is not perfect.
Yeah.
So to just post. So I've been really trying to start taking my camera and just videoing. If it's just a little snippet, so people can see what I'm doing, because that's people looking for that. They're looking. They want to know. People know. They want to know what you're doing. They want to know about the hair. What kind of hair are you doing? But so I am really trying to get better at that.
And I noticed that some of the people are starting, like some of the barbers. I look at the barbers too, because they do. You got white guys coming all across the country to get to this one black guy that does everybody's hair, and they have like a little helpers that usually are like they maybe do something else in the store, but they're doing the camera work. Some of them have gotten where they've gotten, I guess, to enough money where they can hire somebody that just take the picture and you concentrate on the hair. So I know that's something that, like I would love to have a production person to do this for me, but I'm a one-man band right here. Like, I'm paying 12 instruments, but I understand what you're saying. That is work. So people, leave the young folks alone that's doing this and they're making their way through the Instagram. They working hard. They're doing the hair, plus their video, plus their posting, plus their editing, plus their finding music. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of work.
Content create coins.
Yeah, it creates coin.
It create coins.
It's the new world that we live in.
I know for sure, because when I launched my product a couple of years ago, I'm telling you, whenever I am consistent on posting my content, it creates orders.
Okay.
It does. People order.
That's good. That's good. So now, let's talk about men first. Men have come into hair care a lot more now. I'm noticing that. We got wigs. We got toupees that used to be, they don't look stupid. They look good. I'm bald. I'm thinking about having me like a week of hair just to have a little fantasy thing when I go out of town. I would love to have hair. My hair still grows. It's just kind of, and plus I don't like it. It's itchy when it starts growing. I don't want no hair. I let it grow like when I work from home. So by the end of Friday, normally we had an off-site visit today at work. I had to go in because he wanted to meet with everybody, so I had to shave my head. But by the Friday, I got almost a whole head of hair because I don't do nothing. So my hair still grows, but now that I see how men are doing hair and how they're doing things with men, like men they're in that same spectrum. They're buying hair because a lot of them have locks and stuff. A lot of them ain't all that hair all the time, is it? It's not. Okay.
Some men are into, you're going to have some men, you're alpha, and it's not really into, they're going to see against getting, they'll go ahead and just either hide their bald spot or either just cut it all off. But there are some men who was like,
old school dude.
I want hair restoration.
Yeah, they want that.
What do I need to do? I add whatever. I bond it on there. I glue it, what I mean? So
they look better than them during toupees on the old past, whatever they do them down.
They have them down. I mean, these young barbers, they have it down.
They got it down. You can't tell.
You can't, And I hear women saying, "Oh my God," So I don't know. That's a cold conversation right there on that. But I'm all for it because it's creativity.
Yeah. I said, I'll part the dudes. I'll be scared to go out with that. I was like, I'll be gonna pluck my head. I'll be scared. But I know it's hard for guys. But I noticed it's out there. I said, wow, this is crazy. This is crazy.
It's definitely an evolution for men to have a weave.
Yeah, that's huge to me because they thought I was looking like a little weird, and y'all cut it down.
But women used to. I remember being around women who I was really close to. They were older, of course. They would go to the salon after hours to get their weave. It was like a closet, a hidden thing. Like you knew they were wearing weaves, but they weren't gonna let you know.
Why is that such a stigma now? Because white ladies is clipping in stuff. White ladies have weaves now. Do y'all know that?
Been
a long time. That ain't all they hair, y'all.
They've been doing. Black women was doing it early on too, but they would go into the salon after hours. It would be the biggest secret, top secret, of them getting extensions. Yeah. But now, I mean, look how people on the camera getting extensions.
Right.
That was unheard of back in the 80s.
It was. Y'all had to hide that stuff.
You hide and that's how I learned how to do extensions, by going with people I knew that was doing it. There was a secret, but now it's out and open.
Wow.
So that's how men, I think eventually, men is going to get like that. Eventually where it's just out.
Unopened, not a stigma, because when the men are doing something, they got their face covered. They don't want you to see that they wearing the toupee. They didn't want to see that, but the barber wanted to show his work. Exactly. So, I understand that. But we just thought of something. Two people that were ahead of their time with natural hair. I'm going to throw my girl in there. Mr. Ross was wearing her big fluffy stuff when it wasn't cool. Fluffy hair, it wasn't straight. She would wear both, and also Maxwell. They was before their time. They was doing what we trying to do now. Put it out there. Show us what your real locks look like, And now everybody doing it. I love that they had this stuff. They were thinking it didn't matter. It's hair. Show what you got.
Say that is so much confidence in that and boldness.
Yeah.
Like if we can just get back to that. You know what I mean? The civil rights movement was a lot of that.
Yeah.
You know, we had the Afro picks and the forks. I mean,
Right.
and was picking our hair out and shaping it. I mean, like we just kind of went. I remember getting up on Saturday morning.
And that was a revolution thing too, because they had the Black Power thing in there, so it stood for something.
Stood for something
Yeah.
bigger than it was a very
It's a movement.
great time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the relaxers came in.
The relaxers came in and took everything away, but the relaxers came back because you remember in the 50s when they was wearing them process and all that was some harsh crap right there. I mean, they went from that, then your hair went natural, then they came back, and it was like, what are we doing, guys? What are we
You
doing?
see, a lot of the manufacturers back then, they were just putting basically it was just pretty much lye in the product.
Wow.
But they get that hair silky straight.
I look at it like a Nat King Cole.
Yeah.
He had like probably 4C hair from the way he looked.
They had that thick, coarse hair, and when you put that relaxer on there, they had a different name for it back then, but they wear it, and their hair would be just, oh my God, shiny and swinging. But
But they paid for that doing it because I was like, I couldn't imagine what's happened to their hair afterwards.
When they got older, just think about
Mm-hmm.
how it would damage the scalp. But like now, I mean, when the relaxer evolved, they came and started putting more moisturizing agents in it, so they wouldn't be so harsh.
It still would burn because I used to do a TCB on my head all the time. Yeah.
Still would burn, but they had to kind of reformulate, and then the way they did the commercials.
Yeah.
Everything. If you
They sold that to us.
it's like on the radio. If you keep hearing,
You were in Soul Train, you knew exactly what to buy.
yeah. They're gonna have an Afro Sheen commercial to come on, and you're gonna know exactly what to buy. So they was telling you what to buy. We couldn't read no labels. We wasn't seeing all those typicals.
Who's the person with the nice afro want that? Yeah.
I always say, if it don't look like it's plain English, don't.
Wow. We come a long way with that stuff. Wow.
Yeah, you got to know what your product means.
So when we talk about how we were just talking about how things in history changed and whatever, I was talking about Nat King Cole. So how important is that Crown Act? I know you've heard about the Crown Act and the legal. And I just read from here. Let's just talk about the Crown Act here, and I'll just let you read. We'll just read here. It is the Crown Act. So for those who don't know what it is, which stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, is a legislative initiative aimed at prohibiting race-based hair discrimination in workplaces, schools, and other public settings, introduced in California. That went too fast for me right there. The act has a significant impact on Black communities by promoting cultural expression, enhancing economic opportunities, and improving educational equity. And then, since its inception, the Crown Act has been adopted in several states across the U.S., including Texas, where it took effect in September. But I just realized that it's not in effect nationwide. Texas beat everybody else. Can you believe that? It's in effect in Texas. So at the federal level, the Crown Act has been introduced several times in Congress. How is it? It's passed the House, but it's never passed the Senate. So it's not a law in every state yet. So this is, for those of you that don't know, I won't read the whole thing here, but we can look up the Crown Act. But it is a legislative piece about making sure that we're not discriminated because of what we're doing with our hair. And I think finally they may have accepted us now with what we're doing with all of our braids and our Bantu knots and whatever. What do you think? Do you think we're there yet? Do you think that you can go into a job with your Bantu knots and still get it? Or would you still not? You probably go in with the old professional, let me do something for these folks. What do you think?
It just all depends on your geographical area.
Yeah.
The culture.
The culture.
It's just the culture. If you go to a place where it's very diversified and the culture, you have to understand the culture.
The culture.
That's how you get out of that. You just have to understand the culture. Some cultures are very conservative and very on one side about, how you present your hair. And then you have some cultures are extremely artistic and creative, and they welcome, the Bantu knots, Zulu knots, and the 2-strand twists undone and that kind of thing. But it's the culture.
Yeah.
It's in corporate America, it's in schools, it's like, sometimes they don't want kids to have their hair a certain length. It's the color, all that stuff.
Like when you go on the East Coast, when I go to the East Coast, like I go every year, my two best friends live in DC. They have a whole different thing. They get away with a lot of stuff. Down the South, we can't do some of the stuff they are. I mean, they are very in their blackness. But in Texas, Dallas, Dallas is a little bit more progressive than most southern states or southern cities or whatever. But I know Atlanta is probably that's a whole other world. They consider themselves not in Georgia. I don't live in Georgia. I live in Atlanta. They consider that. That's what people say in Miami too. I don't live in Florida. I live in Miami because they're different in those states. But yeah, so I think that this law is going to help, but I don't think we're totally there yet. On some, I don't know. I don't
I
know.
think people need to be aware of the Crown Act and that it's definitely coming. There's people who are fighting to keep it going, and where all 50 states, have that award. But people need to understand and understand what hair discrimination is.
Right.
Because it's real. And like I said, I have had a plethora of people come in when they're getting a job, when they're going on their job interview, and they need their hair straight.
Yeah.
They're not going to wear the 2-strand twist or the afro look. Now, once they get on the job after 90 days, then that's a different story.
Right. Right.
But when they go in the interview, they got to have their hair straight.
Yeah.
But I tell people, understand the culture that you're walking into.
Understand the culture. That's important. All right. So Yolanda, so tell me, what does Yolanda want to see happen with her business, her ventures? What is your plan for the next, say, couple of 3 months? What's your short term plan that you want to do with Evolve Hair Care and your product? What is it called? Deeply Rooted? What is it called? The actual product is called Rooted in Love. Okay, it's the first collection. What do you want to see happening?
So the next 3 months, I'm holding myself accountable to basically create a space where I can spend time with creating my product, keeping it on the shelves in my house, creating a space where I make time for content, posting content, trying to eventually come up with a plan to put my uniform on, go into those beauty supply stores and pitch to them.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
my 3-month plan.
Wow. So is that how you get into? How do you get into the beauty supply places? Do they usually have to go through? They're mostly independent, right? So you can probably get into those by doing just that. Okay, I see.
Let them know that you're there and that you want to serve the community. And, my product is a product of integrity and sustainability. And just, basically give them, an example of what the experience is if someone used my product. Um, you know, on a daily basis, remembering, the content, taking pictures before and after and stuff like that. Because people, they're visual, see, what your work is and what you've done with this product line. So I'm ready. I got my suitcase. I'm packing my suitcase. I'm, getting ready to go, go to the next phase of it. That's what I am really pressing forward to do, is to go in some different
Mhm.
rooms.
Have you done yourself a portfolio, like a hardbound book of your looks yet, or anything like that?
Really, social media is your lookbook.
Is your lookbook okay?
Whatever, I have a couple of pages, and I have, taking pictures of different styles. And
Mhm.
so I always tell people, direct people to my social media. So that's pretty much my lookbook. I don't have a hard copy. That's kind of, I'm not going to say dated, but
Yeah.
we did that maybe 10 years ago,
Mhm.
carried around a lookbook. But, just take them to a social media page and
Okay.
look at
Okay. Almost like a big old table book would be really nice. If this one of those that you can like, that would be something that you could sell in your store. I'm just saying. I'm just giving you some little. I mean, no, books are not. I don't like to. I buy books electronically, but if it's a table book, the one that's gonna last or whatever, there's all that. I would invest in just one. Like I'm gonna do one with my photography, just one hardcore book, just because when we been go on and there's no more, somebody's gonna find this book and they're gonna say, I remember this artist right here. I'm just thinking, but I know going forward, it's gonna always be social media. It's always gonna be something online because we ain't going backwards because it done took off and too much.
But you know what? But you know what? Style repeats itself.
It does.
Like home decor repeats itself,
Yeah.
like designing repeats itself. And I really feel like even with hair, it repeats itself.
Okay.
And so like even how they used to market, well, like you said, the magazines, and that's a dream that I have. I think one day I'm gonna be in a magazine.
Okay.
Or, and so stuff like that hadn't went away.
Yeah.
Because people still want to feel that hard copy. They want to touch and feel, they want to experience
Right.
the look that way instead of going on social media. Now I know people, they're just, scrolling real fast, whatever. Some people want to have it right there,
Yeah.
So that's a really good idea.
I mean, because I'm thinking the fashion industry still kind of has that hard thing a little bit more than because Vogue is still here. Still a magazine that does well. It's like newspapers went away, but the New York Times is still here. Do you know what I mean? It's only certain ones that's going to live it out of that whole thing, but everything else is pretty much dead and dust. So you got to be in that space, that good space of of uh of learning about your product and where you're going. So this has been a great conversation. It really has been a great conversation, but I want you to talk about where can people find your product? Where can they find you? Very much. And I'm going to put all this in the post, everybody. So everybody look in the comments. You'll see all her links and everything will be here on this post about this great session that we had here. And I just want y'all to understand that this is a visionary right here, Yolanda. She's a visionary. And I know that you ain't heard speak like this when it comes to the hair care industry. Not that I've done a little research before I did this podcast. And I said, I want something different. And I think Yolanda's going to be the one that's going to talk real talk and truth of where we are. But just talk about you and what you want to say to a young up and coming hairstylist, whatever you want to say. Just give me a final outro of what you want to say about yourself and what's going on right now.
So I want to talk to that 8-year-old, that 9-year-old little girl who still plays with her Barbie dolls and, still paints and create those images of a woman's face and hair. And I want her to learn how to love, her hair, no matter if it curls tight, if it curls loose, and, educate herself on what it is, what kind of comb she uses and what kind of brush she uses, what kind of, product she uses. Start educating yourself at an early age so that when you get in middle school, high school, when your parents, whomever, is not caring for your hair, you don't have to feel inadequate. Like my hair is not, combed. And, I think that's a big thing for young girls. And I didn't want to let the rabbit out, but I have a child's book, a kid's book that I'm writing, and it focuses on bullying and, self-care and, how we connect with our dolls early on. And one of the things we focus on is the hair and fashion, what they have on and what their hair look like. And so we just need to, remember those little girls.
Yeah.
And when you get older, if you want to go into the business, cosmetology business, find you a good mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Find you a good mentor, somebody who you can learn. Cosmetology school will teach you a lot, but I'm telling you, if you get a mentor, somebody who can teach you, the business one-on-one. I even, recommend taking business classes for those who are in cosmetology school, because that's a big part of holding your business being sustainable. Because a lot of times cosmetologists, they get out of school, they don't last 5 years because the business.
They don't know the business part.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I want my sister. She was very good at what she did hair wise, but the little business part of it, I think that's where it makes them fail. She had a big old beautiful store in Houston, but she did very good. You did very good, Cynthia. I know you're listening to this. I told you, Yolanda, she did really good. She had a very beautiful store, but it can get overwhelming and expensive and the whole bit.
Overhead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I can say through the pandemic, I had to reflect a little bit more on, is this being in this suite, being in this salon, is it making me, the money, I was putting out more than I was coming in a sense. So I went back home and started doing hair full
You
time.
think most stylists believe that that is what shows them that they have they're succeeded once they have a shop? Is that the ultimate goal for a
I
stylist?
think that is something that you would have a
Let's be
goal
this
to do.
entrepreneur. That's a whole nother
I
spectrum.
think you should. I think most stylists should have a goal within 10 years. My goal was to, within 10 years, have my own product.
Okay.
That was my personal.
That's your goal.
I never had a goal to have a salon. I was more or less the product thing. Okay, and if the salon comes, it comes later, but I have my product, standing in position. But I think that sometimes as cosmetologists, we get out of school and we want to go straight to owning our own business. And sometimes you have to crawl before you walk.
Real talk.
To
Real talk.
really, like, work for somebody else for a while, learn the business, get with somebody who's a really good business person and learn from them before you try to go open up doors. Because a lot of times it just become a revolving door. Like you open up a salon, then you have to close it. And open up a salon, you have to close, and you're moving and moving, moving. I see that a lot with hairstylists. Sometimes they, get in not a good financial space. The rent is too high because the chair's not, moving fast.
Move fast enough.
It's not sustainable. So you got to be wise when you're doing this business. It makes very good money, but you have to be really wise because the more, as you make it, it's you spend it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't spend the money before you make it.
Right.
So
Yeah. I think about my sister when she had her business. I remember we all went down there and it was called First Look by Cynthia Long. Big old beautiful. She had an investor. They helped her and everything. Beautiful. And I remember it opening and she did so well. But my sister, she kind of made herself become more. She always told me I don't do trendy hair. She only had professional stylists. Professional clients. The ladies that's like a doctor and a professor, stuff like that. She didn't really get into the trendy hair. Like I said, Cynthia, you doing freezes? I don't do freezes. She was all into that. So what are you into a part of a space, or do you allow any kind of hair style, or some things you just don't want to deal with? Like, what's a style that you're like, we're not doing that? And Yolanda, no glue. Okay. None of that.
No quick weeds. It has to be healthy hair
Okay.
from a conscious hairstylist.
That's good.
And I do have I would say my clientele are women who are career driven women, who are creative, professional women. And they are very, they put a lot into invest in their hair.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my target.
So you would never sell yourself for money just because everybody's getting these glue and making a lot of money. You would never go there. That's just because to make money. There are some stylists that would do that. I know. Yeah.
Don't do that. I'd rather for you to go somewhere else, because you're probably gonna come back to me so I can fix the, what happened.
Right.
Glue.
Yeah.
Concerns, but no, I am very particular about the services that I do.
Yeah. So I understand that. So this has been a great conversation. I learned a lot from you, Yolanda, today. I really did on this. And these are questions that I've always had about hair. And I just want to say that I am so excited as to what you're doing and what a lot of the hairstylists are doing out there. I watch y'all. I look at all y'all's videos because I'm following probably everybody on that hair. And I see how y'all are making these ladies happy. You're growing their hair. And I just want to say this one last thing about hair. I wish that this new way that we are moisturizing our hair was back when we was doing our fros. Because I used to put the conditioner and stuff in here, but we would wash it all out. But y'all are like leaving it. And I used to love the way my hair looked when it was stayed in there. It had this curl pattern that we talking about now. That's what I wanted it to look like. But then that's not what we were doing. But if we had just left the stuff in and just got more into the moisture of our hair, got away from the bergamot grease and all the stuff we was doing, the royal crown. My mother I told you, my mother did hair, so she had all that stuff. So we could have had much better fros. You know what I'm saying? Much more. I just keep thinking about why did we have it be popping?
Yeah, the curls will pop.
That's why I wish I had hair now, because I was like, my hair would be laid. Now that I know how to take care of hair and everything else, you know what I mean? Because, I would have hair and I know what to do with it, So I don't know. This has been a great conversation. So be sure and tell everybody where they can find you and everything. So, of course, I have it posted, but I wanted to just say it so y'all know exactly what going on with my friend here, Yolanda.
Okay, you can find me on Facebook by Yolanda Cooper, but I also have a Instagram. It is Rooted in Love Million, and also on TikTok, Rooted in Love Million. My Shopify is Evolve Hair Beauty on Shopify. So yeah, and we will actually link all of my ways that you can connect with me on this podcast platform. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all.
This has been so good, and I forgot to show your
Yolanda R. Cooper, a
let me
native
that.
Texan.
I'm not mean to do that. I forgot to show the deal that I want to show your where is your thing I was going to show you? I never did show oh, I didn't ever show your thing here. So this is what the podcast, and I'm blocked Yolanda out, but this is the podcast, and I called it Let's Talk with Carl Elon. This is Yolanda here, and I called it the Black Hair Story. So that's what the podcast will look like. If you're searching for your podcast on wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Apple Music, wherever you do your podcast, you will find me out there. And the video, of course, will be on my YouTube channel, Kalo Stars World, and just find the podcast there. And then you'll see this podcast. It's my latest episode, number 38. And it's called The Black Hair Story, A Journey with Yolanda Cooper. And guys, I know that y'all have really enjoyed what we have done today. Because this is like life-changing stuff for hair. So I want y'all
More
to,
to come.
yeah, share this, blog it, wherever, and then I'm going to put it all out there as much as I can, and I'm just going to bother everybody until they listen, because I think that you have just really opened up some eyes to what's going on. So thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long, and until we meet again, have a wonderful day. Bye now.